to the More Life podcast. I am your host, Elle Mace, and today I'm joined by John Tiernan-Locke. Hi, John.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for coming. John is a former professional cyclist representing Great Britain. Whoa, that's big. That's massive. So, John, that's like a top-line explanation of you. Can you just give us a bit more of an in-depth kind of into who you are, what you do?
Well, I don't do it anymore, but
No.
yeah, like you said, former professional cyclist. Through my 20s and early 30s, I was a pro cyclist, climbing different ranks, the different tiers in the sport. Like you said, represented Great Britain. That was quite an honour on a couple of occasions, I think 3 times. I was selected a 4th time, but actually didn't get to ride because of some less than ideal circumstances. And now I've barely touched a bike.
I was actually listening to a podcast of you the other day, and the guy asked you whether you watch, I think it's actually a few years ago, this podcast, but whether you actually continue to watch cycling and getting involved in it. And I just heard your journey kind of out of cycling. And I did think, like, how does it feel now to watch, to try and watch cycling and actually take an interest in it?
I'm still not that far removed from it, that I've got ex-teammates who are still racing or people I raced against. So there's still that kind of relativity, relevance. I can, I can see ex-teammates doing well and stuff, although most of them coming to retirement age now. But I think once you've done it professionally, you've essentially been like a gun for hire, you kind of lose a lot of that amateur passion, which is a shame, really. I get mates and all fired up about the latest kit or doing these rides. And I look outside, if there's one little tiny angry looking cloud like miles away, I'm thinking, yeah. So you do kind of lose some of that, which is a shame, really. Yeah,
I'm not surprised. So I've got loads and loads of questions for you. Can you just take us back to John as a kid? So you're obviously from Plymouth. We're actually currently sat in Plymouth at the moment, in John's hometown. So you grew up in Plymouth?
Yes, born and bred.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Yanas?
Yeah.
Janas.
Oh, no, you're Janas. Janas.
Janas.
Yeah.
Is that what you?
It's a soft J. It's a Yana.
Yeah. Okay. Are we allowed to say that? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it one of those where you're allowed to call yourself a Jana if you're a Jana, but?
I think you can label someone a Jana.
Yeah, it's all right. Okay, that's good then. So you grew up in Plymouth, and who was in your family? What was in the setting?
So mum and dad still together, and I've got a twin sister and a brother who's 2 years younger, but they both live in the Caribbean now.
Oh, nice.
Sunning it up, yeah.
Okay, and what was family life like when you were growing up?
Yeah, brilliant. Really, just really happy time growing up. Can't fault my parents, the best ones ever.
Oh, nice.
Really close to my siblings now, and we have been the whole way through. We've got the same group of friends, so my friends tend to be their friends. So yeah, really close knit.
Yeah. So when did you start cycling?
Probably when I was about 13, something like that. We lived just outside of Plymouth in a place called Yelton, and it was the only way to get around, really. So we rode bikes, and I remember seeing an advert for a race kind of locally in the back of a magazine. So I asked my parents to take me. I did it. I did okay. I didn't win. My bike was a piece of junk. And I think I thought, right, I need to have another go at that to do better, just because I'm stubborn. I didn't really enjoy it. I was just stubborn enough to think, right, I'm going to win one of these.
Yeah. And then did you get another bike and have another go?
I think I did a few on that same rubbish bike, but then I think the next year I went back and I started winning all of them.
Oh, really? So you were naturally good at cycling?
Yeah, I just stumbled across the thing. I mean, if I had chosen maybe ice skating or something, I would have just been really middling. But I fell into cycling. I enjoyed it. I liked all the kit, buying the bits to upgrade and doing the mechanics, and I just happened to be good at it. So it was quite fortunate, really.
And so, as a kid, were you kind of like committed to the fitness side of it, and then like the dedication to?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't believe I used to be like that, given how lackluster I am with the gym and stuff nowadays. I'm so slack. My brother says, like, how do you used to be so dedicated?
Yeah.
And now you like can't string a week at the gym together,
I mean, what is that all about? Probably, as you grow, your passions change anyway.
I was just driven, and I had goals. I had goals, and I saw a route to achieving them. Now I don't. It's just staying. I just don't want to be fat. That's my only motivation now.
Oh, we can come on to that. So when you were like 10 years old, how old were you when you've been cycling for like a year or two?
14, 15, something like that.
Did you know, I'm really good at this, I can get really far?
Well, I was winning all the local stuff, the South West Series, up to Bristol, that sort of thing. I've done a couple of national races, and I top 10 in those. So I had an idea, yeah.
Yeah. And how did you feel about, well, I'm guessing, I don't know, I might be wrong, but were you kind of doing different things to your friends? Were you like missing out on socials? Was there any part of that was difficult?
A bit, yeah. I mean, those early teenage years, you wouldn't get away with it now because they're hot on ID, but everyone used to go out drinking, at 15, 16, they just let you in. So I wasn't doing so much of that. I was strict with what I was eating. I was a bit misguided, there wasn't the internet, or maybe there was, but it was dial up. There wasn't a wealth of information that's instantly on your phone now. So you take some advice from someone, you read something in a book, and you're not always following the right advice. But I definitely missed out. I made some sacrifices, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when did you start? When would you call yourself a professional cyclist? At what age was that?
I actually stopped cycling. I moved to France and did a couple of years with top amateur teams.
Yeah.
And that was going to be my route to turning pro. And I had a fantastic start to the season in 2005. I was absolutely flying, won some races, and that should have been the year. And I ended up getting a virus, getting what we'll know as glandular fever, mononucleosis, and it knocked me for 6. I had this like post-viral fatigue, which lingered, really depressed me actually. So I ended up coming home, going to uni, totally abandoning cycling. In my final year, I got back to it. Straight away got back to my previous level, and then turned pro the next year.
Oh wow.
So, but there was like a 3-4 year hiatus.
Yeah, but what do you feel like that was actually meant to be, because it was needed in order to recover from the virus?
Definitely. It took the pressure off as well. Like, I had really severely disordered eating and stuff around that time, trying to keep my weight low. And it was just like a switch. I went to uni, just ate what I wanted, didn't stress about stuff like that. So that was a positive.
Had a good time. Okay, so interestingly, you've kind of just touched on the fact that actually when you were at university, the disordered eating, did it kind of feel easier or went away?
Just went away.
Really?
Because I didn't have an eating disorder just for the sake of it. I had it because it was kind of linked to performance, and I thought, but it got quite dark. It was linked to performance, but then you get this compulsive eating, and then you feel like you have to purge. And when I was at uni, I wasn't racing. I didn't have to be a certain weight. I wasn't that bothered about my body shape, and I didn't get out of control. But I just stopped obsessing. I used to be like a calculator in my head. I could tell you the calories and macros of every single food. And I just stopped counting.
Yeah. So when did this voice, the sort of eating voice, when did it first come into your life?
I would say 2005, when I was living in France near the Swiss border, on my own. I was meant to have a teammate, but he had living with me. He had visa issues, so he couldn't be there. And I'd been going really well racing wise. I got this virus, so I wasn't training. I'd eat in the morning. I think today's going to be the day where I feel better. So I'd eat like a good pre-training meal. I'd go out. I'd do like an hour of what was meant to be a 6-hour session, and then I'd be really pissed off that I'd taken all these calories and stuff. So I'd get back. I think I'm not going to eat for the rest of the day. So it started off like that, just doing these crazy fasts, and then I'd be craving food. I was craving sugar. I'd go out to the boulangerie, buy a load of sweet pastries and stuff, have them, be disgusted with myself, and that's when the bulimia started.
Yeah. As someone with a previous eating disorder, bulimia as well, everything you say, I'm just like, oh my god, yeah. And
it's crazy how you then learn to spot it in others, which I have done. You don't always say it, but you think, I know what's going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if it's kind of like hidden habits and behaviors, you can really see a pattern.
But you become good at hiding it, even if it's not throwing up, if it's ordering certain meals at a restaurant, knowing that you can get away with leaving a certain amount of them, or pushing food around your plate and not actually really touching it. And I've had someone, a female team manager before, pull me aside and say, look, I recognise that. And I was devastated. I thought I was being really clever with this. How do you know? Because she had it.
Yeah. So what were you roughly, like 17, 18 here?
19 that year, I think.
19. And did obviously eventually there's this team manager said something to you, but any of the people that you were hanging around with for those following 3-4 years, or those few years, did anyone know?
No, not at all. And what kind of feeds into that is you turn up at training camp or whatever, and you're being complimented on how lean you are. You know, they can see all your veins popping out your legs, and it seems a good thing. Cycling's got a real problem with that, with weight.
Yeah.
It's a power to weight ratio sport, and it's quite an old fashioned sport as well. There's a lot of wives' tales in there. You know, if you feel like you're maxed out in power wise in training, what's another way to get faster? You drop the weight. And you hear these tales of these crazy training camps, especially in Italian teams and stuff like that, where if you're not performing well, they'll ration your food. They'll come and search your bags in your room, in the hotel, check you're not stashing food. If you are, then you've got to go out training behind the car with the lights on at night, do like 2 hours, all these stupid punishments. It's you kind of laugh about it at the time, you don't see it as a problem, but in this day and age, you see similar things come out about ballet or gymnastics and other sports, and you think that wasn't correct.
That is not correct, and that is not right. And mentally, you know, to be a professional sports person, yes, there's a physical aspect, but as we know now, there's a huge mental aspect of this. So do you think, like, when you were actually in that period of the bulimia, your performance was improving?
At times, not during the first episode, because I was suffering from a virus and everything anyway, but there were times when I'd gone on these crazy diets, these 2-day fasts. I wouldn't even have a coffee because I think, well, milk's got calories in.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You were literally tracking everything.
Everything. Even having a chewing gum. I'd look at it and be like, well, I've had 3 of those, that's 15 calories. I've got to run up and down the stairs like 20 times. Really, yeah. But my performance in certain ways did go up. So on long climbs where you just need a steady, sustained power, I was really good. But you lose that explosivity because you've lost muscle mass, your energy reserves aren't there. So that punchy, those efforts that I used to be good at, kind of like a sprinter or good on short climbs, I was losing that. So I was actually losing what made me good as a rider, trying to become a different kind of rider, like a climber. But I was only ever going to be middle of the road in that anyway.
So when this lady said to you, I think there's an issue here, what support did you get?
She was pretty good. Memories are vague now. It was in a hotel in New York on a training camp. I ended up actually having a bit of a fallout with that team over something, not getting paid, some legal letters were thrown around, and I left. So I can't really remember, but I've since spoken to her, years later, and we're on good terms now. But I just look back and think she was spot on. You should have probably listened a bit more, but you don't want to hear it. You just think, right, I'll get better at hiding it. So, yeah. Tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah.
To carry on doing what you're doing. So
did you kind of like deny it to her, or did you like admit it?
No, I couldn't, because she had me banged to rights. I couldn't say no, I haven't. She could see what I was doing. She had monitored me over the course of that week. So
yeah, it's pretty hell, right? Like, I think people that have been through it, obviously, they understand it. And if you haven't been through it, an eating disorder or, disordered eating, it can be quite hard to understand what it really means to suffer.
Well, at first you don't see it as a problem. You just think, well, this is a necessary step. Once you start to accept it's a problem, I remember I'd set all these deadlines, right? This is the last time I'm doing that.
God,
Never doing it again.
Yeah.
That's it. Even in my training diary, I put little notes and stuff. And
never again.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Done.
Oh my God.
You me. And
yeah.
And you got in, you straight back doing it again. So
yeah. So with the whole purging bit, was it mainly, physically like making yourself sick and purging, or was it also really over exercising? I mean, obviously you were exercising a lot anyway.
All of it.
All of it.
Yeah. Under eating, over exercising, doing these crazy long rides. But again, that's seen in the sport as dedication. I'll be held up as an example for my work ethic, for the amount of hours I was putting in. But a lot of it was just junk mileage. I probably could have been as good, maybe better, because I would have been fresher and not always fatigued if I'd cut the hours down and wasn't constantly trying to change my body composition and keep lean. I'd go on super low protein diets because naturally I was carrying too much upper body. And as a cyclist, you want to be stick thin. And I look at other guys who are like coat hanger physiques, almost with envy, thinking, God, I need to, I've got biceps which I need to try and trim down. So I try and do it by cutting out protein and stuff.
Chaos.
Yeah.
It's absolute chaos, isn't it? Mentally. Yeah. I heard on your podcast you said something on the lines of like you fasted and then went out for like an 8-hour cycle and you're like seeing stars and stuff. Like it's
I've got loads I remember that one that was spoken about that time, but I've got loads of examples like that. Like doing a similar ride like that. I stopped at my friend's bike shop in Paynton. This was back in the UK, and he gave me some Jelly Belly did this sports, I think they're called sports beans, and he gave me a handful of those. So try those. I was cycling back from the shop, probably had about 60 miles left to do. That sugar hit me because I had nothing else. The crash was so bad, I had to pull over, climb over a 5-bar gate, and have a nap in a field before I could carry on because I couldn't even see straight. I was weaving. God. So bad.
Like you're drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because your vision starts to go, your thinking is slowed down, everything's just impaired. Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically it
is pop. Yeah, that's a weird thing, yeah.
It is pop. I used to get that. If I had like not eaten at all for the day, I'd be talking to people and then I'd feel like, oh my God, like I'm being overcome.
Did you find caffeine would accelerate that as well?
Yeah, although when I was in my eating disorder years, I didn't drink coffee. So I actually only recently started drinking coffee since I had children. But yeah, so no, I'm not sure about that.
You needed to cope.
I did. I think I'm the only person who started drinking coffee pregnant. But anyway, so in that period where you're bulimia, you're in the thick of it, how was it affecting other aspects of your life in terms of like relationships? Obviously your work was the cycling, but like anything else going on?
I don't recall, because I was quite private with it. It was only years after that I spoke about it. You're kind of ashamed of it at the time, especially as a guy. You think, well, that's a girl's problem. Rightly or wrongly, well, definitely wrongly, but you tend to think as a man how that would be viewed. It'd be social suicide. So you just don't tell anyone. So I don't think anyone knew, apart from the one team manager who spotted it. It would affect me in ways. I'd probably avoid going out for dinners and stuff. I'd make excuses. If I did, I might go on the website beforehand, check they had a salad on there. Just try and eat as little as possible.
Yeah. And for your self-worth, what was going on there? Were you feeling like, was it impacting them, or was your self-worth like almost higher just from the adrenaline of the sport and what your performance?
I mean, there's no adrenaline in sport unless you're actually in that moment in the race. Day to day, you don't feel that. It did affect my self-worth, I guess, because you have a purge or do whatever, and you just feel like you've let yourself down again. Feel ashamed, and feel guilty. Like I wasn't doing it to anyone else, I'm not harming anyone else, but you kind of feel that I don't know, that guilt, you carry that around.
Yeah. It's so complex, isn't it? Did you, growing up, was there any did you grow up in any sort of like diet culture? Was there people dieting? No.
My parents are pretty old fashioned.
Okay.
Everything's full of fat. Diet, nothing, there's no diet products in the house. Good. I was around there on Sunday having a roast, and everything's full of fat.
Yeah. So there was no internal messaging around don't be fat, be thin, do this. It was very, very much sport related and performance related.
I came up with all this myself. It was totally from within, these issues.
Yeah, this belief that if you were, well, also you said earlier you had to be weighed. Like, did you have to like get on the scales and be weighed?
You'd have skin fold tests, and you'd have a body fat which you'd try and be at, which is super lean. You fat on your stomach's like the back of your hand. You're so lean, veins all up places that they shouldn't be. It was me thinking, right, if I can just get down to this weight, if I can just do this. If you look at your power numbers, someone's ability in cycling is often expressed as a watts per kilo. So watts is a power figure. Your watts per kilo, and a world-class number might be 6, and you think, right, if I can just get around that, I need to trim 2 kilos. I know my power data. and I'll be there. So
yeah.
again, you're always running the numbers, even out in training on a climb. You're seeing what power you're doing, you're thinking, right, I know what weight I'm at. If I drop 2 or 3 kilos, I'll go better at this race.
Yeah. So throughout the day, on an average day, did you think about anything else other than food and calories?
It's pretty all consuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just, like I said, my brain was like a calculator, always overthinking, always thinking what I can eat next. Breakfasts were a good one because you'd have to eat to fuel for the ride. That was the only time you could really enjoy food. After that, it was about managing the hunger. So I'd try and almost fool myself into feeling full by having those like diet jellies or like just rubbish food, you know, just to try and pad you out.
Yeah, just constantly trying to manipulate yourself.
Yeah, but again, the culture in cycling, it's pretty dark. There's quite a history of riders going out, training, coming back, eating, the champions, you know, eating next to nothing, taking a Stilnox, like a strong sleeping tablet, going to sleep because you can't eat when you're sleeping, you know, and waking up and then having a light evening meal.
Yeah. And what you're explaining there is I've heard with so many other sports people in other, like, you know, let's say dance, ballet, gymnastics, you know, so many places. Have you ever, now you've obviously like come out and started speaking about it, which I'm guessing has been quite a few years now, but have you ever been with another guy who has said, yeah, me too, I've done that?
I don't think so. I'm racking my brains here. I mean, there definitely will be, but a lot of people keep it to themselves, I guess. I've read about it, people that I've raced with, but no one's actually opened up to me and said that they have. But I've definitely read about ex-teammates and people who think I wouldn't, you know, I would not have, you know, put you down for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we know the eating disorder stats are always on the rise year on year, and for males and females, but you know, it's spoken about that a little bit more and, you know, with females now. But you know, as doing what I do for work, I see it, you know, I see the numbers coming in, and it's just amazing that you're actually sat here talking about it.
Well, it's in all sports. Something that really surprised me, was when Freddie Flintoff came out, and I thought, cricket isn't a power to weight sport. Obviously, you've got to run and stuff, so you need to be trim, but it's nothing like running, cycling, any of those sports. I thought for someone like that, you know, he's a big, burly northern lad. That was quite shocking, really. But it just shows how it's probably more pervasive than you think, and you know, people in all sports and they all suffer.
And the psychological aspects of it, like, yes, you know, yours was probably quite performance led, but his could have been more emotionally led, or, you know, even before his sporting career, like, you know,
well, I think he said there were some comments, you know, fat lad or whatever, and that stayed with you. Mine was definitely performance led. I mean, it certainly wasn't vanity. I looked terrible. You're so gaunt and skinny. I look back at pictures now. I was used to myself, so I didn't, you know, I thought I looked fine. I remember bumping into people that I used to go to school with, or a woman I worked with actually in a uni, some holiday job at a pub, and she saw me. She couldn't. I could see her face, and she was like, "Are you okay? Have you been ill or something?" She thought I had cancer or something because I was so gaunt.
It's. And the thing is, for you there, it kind of, I want to say it worked for you there, like it helped you strip down and strip fat. But for lots of people, they're not, you know, the binging part of it, they're not, it's not working in the way that they want it to. And actually, for a lot of people, they actually gain a lot of weight when they're in bulimia. And then, you know, you're like, I'm trying this isn't supposed to work, now this isn't working. We've said it a few times, it's just so chaotic. So when was the first time, obviously we had the incident where the lady said to you, I know what you're doing, but you kind of, you know, it wasn't like off your own back opening up. When was the first time you told someone about it?
It would have been after my career, probably in the last 5-6 years, something like that. I can't even remember. I think it got to the point where I was just comfortable to speak about it. I thought, well, it's in the past, I'm not ashamed of it now, so I don't go around broadcasting, you know, when I had social media, I didn't put it in my bio, but it wasn't something that I felt was a massive deal to open up about. I thought if I can talk about this and it maybe help someone else in the same situation, because a lot of people won't admit they're in it, they'll, you know, then it's a good thing.
Oh my gosh. I mean, like if there are any young female male people cycling at the moment, there's 18-year-olds, 16-year-olds, you know, in the thick of this, even listening to this is going to be like a huge benefit.
I've seen it before. People I've coached, I don't really coach now, but I've coached people in the past and they've wanted to lose weight. And I've asked them to keep a food diary. And you think what your training, your weight, and the fact you're not losing weight in the food diary is not tallying up. So people aren't really honest about it. It's because it's a tough cycle to break. It's embarrassing. It's you know, like I said before, you feel like shame.
You do. So it kind of disappeared over university, which is great because for some people it kind of comes full power at university with alcohol and study stress, etc. You left uni. When did it come back?
So I turned professional the year after that, pretty much straight away, but not in the vomiting, purging. You know, it was just the exercise and the crazy diets and doing all the stuff which no coach would ever recommend. But you know, you think you know better.
Yeah.
Especially me, I'm just like that. I don't take any, but I could give all right advice. I just don't take it
until stubborn.
Until I hit rock bottom, and then I think, right, let's start taking some advice now. But it was probably a couple of years after that. I remember being at a race in Corsica, big world tour race. And normally in cycling, you room with someone, so you're sharing with the teammates. You can't get away with that stuff. I was on my own just because the team was odd numbers. I had dinner. I thought I need to lose weight. You know, you're always walking around like pinching skin and just checking like it's going to change from hour to hour, but it's just always in your head. And I just got straight back into it. And I thought I was so over it, and then just like that.
I know, it's shit, isn't it? You do. I think the lapse part of eating disorders is high, and you get these moments where you think, oh my God, I've done 6 months, I've done a year, like I'm done with it. And then it's like a switch. They just come back on.
I know. I can't believe I'm back doing this. And you know, straight after that, I'm thinking, right, never again.
Yeah.
That was a one-off, just because you overate at dinner, and you know. But
yeah, definitely.
You gaslight yourself.
You're at war with yourself, aren't you? Like, there's no one else in this toxic relationship but yourself. Just putting yourself through absolute hell.
Yeah.
So, and this is when you became professional, so there's even more pressure. You're probably more so in the limelight now, and you're having to be the most elite athlete you've ever been.
And I was trying to change my sort of rider type, trying to become more of a lightweight climber, which was totally not my physiology. So I was doing all these things which were becoming quite detrimental to my performance. I was nowhere near as good as I was the year before, where I was in a less pressured environment and I was more relaxed. Suddenly, when I decided I need to get down to like 60 odd kilos, bear in mind now I'm around 93, something like that. And I'm not, I'm not lean as anything, but I'm all right. 60 something kilos, low 60s.
That's nuts.
You know, and that was quite a lot of muscle mass. I carried quite a lot of my legs, you know, so I was so lean and emaciated, you know, elsewhere.
I don't even, as you're talking, I'm like, how did you even perform?
You are eating a lot compared to the normal person. Say you go out and you're in a race, you're burning maybe 800-900 calories an hour, you're racing 6 hours, so you still have to eat a lot. But I just always made sure I was running that deficit.
Yeah. And so how long did this go on for? How many more years was this happening?
Another couple probably, till I exited the sport. I added it all together. I might have been on and off doing that sort of stuff combined 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Yeah. So actually, did you stop racing, stop competing because you had some time out, didn't you? And then did it actually, like university, did it just go?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did. I did go back to racing a year or so later, but because it was an amateur level, I wasn't that committed. My heart wasn't really in it. I didn't then go back to being bulimic. So
wow,
it just kind of left. So again, I think I can really relate to people who've struggled with it in sport, but luckily for me, it didn't carry on over into normal life.
No. So since normal life, you haven't had that voice to say, go to the toilet?
I haven't, no. I think maybe I've got high metabolism. I just eat kind of what I want now, and I never put on weight. The only thing that will make me put on weight is if I eat what I want and I'm going, I'm drinking or going out too much. So I'm fortunate there, because it easily could have transferred into normal life and I'd still be struggling with it, but it just happened to, it was linked to cycling. When cycling stopped, it stopped.
So the bulimia stopped, the eating sort of stopped. Would you say now do you have any sort of disordered relationship with food?
I'd say I've got a pretty good relationship with food, but maybe once you've been there, it never fully leaves you. There are times when I think I will skip meals, or I'll, I think I want to get leaner for something. I had my brother's stag do in Ibiza a few years ago.
Okay, yeah.
I thought everyone's going to be there with a shirt or something. Yeah. They were posting things on a WhatsApp group. There pictures of them at the gym, and even my brother-in-law, and he's like, "Is it Ned Flanders when he takes his shirt off and he's shredded?" You never see it, and he was there building something in his garden, had his shirt off, and I was like, "Whoa!" So I thought, right, got to up my game. So I might have had a few like ridiculous fasts leading into that.
Yeah.
So.
But that switch didn't go off.
No, never felt it. I think part of that as well, I've always been quite a can't use the word I was going to use.
Okay.
But quite
I'll ask what that was later.
Regimented about sort of oral hygiene and stuff. And then when I found out about how bad being bulimic was for your teeth with the acid and stuff, and I thought, right, that is not good.
Yeah. And that's the part that when you're in the thick of it, you kind of like, you not that you don't care, but it's not enough to pull you out of it. Then afterwards on reflection, it's like, no.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a lot of the things that you think are damaging, that will make you say to yourself, promise yourself that you should break all the time, like never doing that again. But the pull to do it is stronger than the knowledge of the consequences, I guess.
Yeah. So at your whole career, what would you say was the biggest mental battle? I mean, there's a few things I haven't spoken about yet, but like what kind of hit you hardest mentally?
During the career?
Yeah.
I guess disappointing performances that you couldn't really put your finger on why that happened. And again, you gaslight yourself about that. You think, right, I'll come back, next race will be different. You think, why would it be different? You've done the same training, nothing really is going to change. But sometimes you just get a lucky performance and you ride that wave of confidence and it sort of brings you back up. So it was quite kind of peaks and troughs for me. I never found that I was riding an even keel. And the same with the eating thing. You think, right, I'm done with that now. I'm on even keel. You have a bad performance. You feel like, well, it might be because I was too fat, because I got dropped on a climb. And then you back into that kind of, dangerous cycle.
Yeah. So what happened? Like, what was the kind of finale to your cycling career?
A drawn out legal battle over a blood passport violation. So that was pretty rubbish. And then, well, to put it mildly, it left me quite bitter towards cycling.
Yeah,
but I think the main thing which I hadn't planned for was your value as a cyclist or as an athlete. Your self-worth is kind of intrinsically linked to your status as a cyclist. You've got, so when that goes and you're just a bloke, you think, well, what am I going to do now? You've got such structure and routine, be it your day-to-day training, your year planned out, you look forward to the off season, going on holiday. When that's gone, for me, I just became a bit rudderless. I'm very goal oriented. I need targets to keep me driven. When I don't have that, you just I do tend to drift.
Yeah.
And you start drinking and just start not looking after yourself. And what do they say? Devil makes work for idle hands. That was definitely me.
Yeah. So was that what happened after you had to take? Well, you took time out before you came back, but was it you just sort of turned to alcohol?
Yeah. I wouldn't say turn to it like I was just sat in a dark room with the curtains drawn, just necking strongbow, but there would definitely be binges of that, and then I'd be pissed off at myself, like, why'd you get wasted?
Yeah, I know. I find there's a bit of a link between alcohol as well and disordered eating. Like, do you think there's ever a link there between, okay, well, hold on, purging has always been my coping mechanism when you were professionally cycling, and then when you had to take that time off, it was like, did you need another coping mechanism?
I think so, and I think more broadly than that, it's people who are driven, these people who are high achievers or always trying to better themselves, or you know, those kind of characters, you look for those mechanisms. If it's not being bulimic, maybe it's the alcohol, you can latch onto something, you become quite, I wouldn't say I have an addictive personality, but I'm quite compulsive. And you almost swap one thing out for another. Luckily, I've never got into gambling because I've probably been like, yeah.
Oh God.
But you know what I mean? It's almost like you put this pressure on yourself and you look for every minute way to improve, even if you know it's probably not healthy.
Yeah, definitely. And that like numbing of the, I mean, you know, what you're doing there with the binge drinking is, you know, served a purpose for you at the time. You were miserable, unhappy, and actually 2 days out of the 7, or whatever, if it was weekend, then you felt, you know, kind of better, or you just felt numb.
Well, it's escapism, isn't it? And you escape from, for me, it was like the mundanity. I was just bored.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything going on. I really should have done, I'm doing quite a lot now. I'm keeping busy. And I'm really happy, genuinely. But at the time, I wasn't doing a lot. I had, you know, I was starting out as a landlord, doing some property stuff, but that doesn't fill most of your time. All your friends have got jobs, so you don't see them in the week. So I was just bored.
And also everything you'd ever known, because you started cycling so young, is just kind of your way of life has just completely changed in an instant.
No, it's everything. Even you know, a lot of your friends and people who hang around, not the good ones, but they just don't want to know after that, you know.
Really?
And then when I came back, suddenly they reappear. It's like you sort of learn who your good mates are.
Would you say that's been quite a big thing as part of your journey, your friendships?
Yeah, I mean, my friends I've had outside of cycling have always been there, and they're fantastic. I'm lucky with the group of friends I've got. But there were definitely some people during the fallout from the passport case and everything else that just didn't want to know. And there were others who would stick their head above the parapet and sort of came out, you know, to bat for me, and that was great. But it was the loss of that structure, the routine, your identity. I'm not somebody who really, you know, gave a shit about fame or whatever else, but you get a bit of that, and the money as well. You know, you're really well paid. It was it was just quite a stark contrast when that all stops, and you're not really prepared for that.
You're not prepared, exactly. It's like that injury, isn't it? Like when people get suddenly injured and that their careers just cut short. So you always knew at one point you would retire from cycling, because you just have to eventually, like all sports people.
Yeah.
And from, you know, elite cycling. But it's kind of like you weren't expecting it there.
You want it on your own terms. I've done quite a lot of reading, actually, what I did in the past, about people coming out of other sports, and it's so common. People come out of that limelight, even the ones who actually just retire, and they turn to drinking or drugs or gambling because they need something to feed that compulsiveness, and you get a sort of a high from these sports, whether it's adulation or winning a race or whatever. And when that's missing, you don't have that excitement in your life, the danger, even just all these things, these sensations that you just don't get when you're sat around watching Netflix.
I can't even imagine, you know, like your diary would have been on a plane somewhere else, and then suddenly it's like, no, you're just going to stay in one place and try and build I guess what some people call a normal life. Yeah,
you're taking multiple flights a week. You're always doing something, so people always want your attention. If you're not, if you've got some time off, you're doing appearance days, you know, getting paid a fee for that. In the winter, you're going and doing like maybe the dinner circuits, you're doing afternoon speeches and stuff. There's always something, and then suddenly there's nothing.
Yeah,
you know, it's it was such a steep drop off.
Yeah. So
do you mind if we pause it? So
yeah, of course.
Get the top up.
Do you want some more water?
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So you've got up to it now.
That's fine, don't worry. Yeah, good right, get the vegetable that. Yeah, we've literally got the last like 5 minutes.
Oh, really? Time's flown by.
It does. One of them, I couldn't see the time, and I talked for like an hour and a half. Let's go. Oh, God. Okay, so one of the questions that I like to ask people is, do you have any regrets? I know some people will answer, no, I don't have regrets.
Regrets.
But if there was a regret, what would it be?
Are we talking in what context?
In your sporting career, yeah. Those kind of like start to end pet peeves.
What I should coulda.
Yeah.
I guess there are a few. I don't dwell on them and think, oh, I wish I'd have changed that. But I wish I had a better understanding or was more vocal about how I saw myself as a rider and my physiology and body type. So I wasn't encouraged and pushed down to go down this route where if I got lighter, I'd be better to be a climber. If I had tried to become more of just what they call a puncher in cycling, like a sprinter type rider, which is where I was good with explosive power, and just gone down that route. That's something, if I could do it again, I'd tell myself, and obviously don't do all the crazy, fasting and being sick and stuff. That's one. And maybe when I came back to sport in 2016, it's easy to say now, water under the bridge, but to have been less bitter, accepted a pay cut, gone back in and just picked up the pieces and started off, and it would have taken a couple of years, I would have been back, but instead I was, again, maybe it's a stubbornness, I was like, no, fuck you, I'm not doing it.
Well, it sounds like, I don't know the full story about what happened, but it sounds like it was unfair, and it probably would have left you feeling very angry.
Yeah, I think that's an understatement. I was pretty angry. I did some interviews at the time with, I remember Dan Rowan came down from the BBC. I think it was pretty swear word laden. I've watched it back a couple of years later. But I was pissed off.
Yeah, and you're in it. It's your life.
Yeah.
Like, of course you would be. So just for anyone listening who doesn't know what happened and isn't like so in the know about cycling, what actually happened for you to have to take the 2 years out?
I had an anomaly in my blood passport, which is a longitudinal study of your blood values. Everyone's is different, and they'll track you over time and see where your highs and lows are. And then you get sort of parameters based on the learned data. And I'd usually get three strikes. So if they'll pick up on 1, 2, and then the third one might trigger a case. I had just one, and the rest were all fine. But the one that I had sat quite far out of my norms. So they said, well, that's indicative of like manipulation, such as having like a blood transfusion or something. And no evidence, no forensic sort of standards applied. Had to go to court. My legal counsel, we discovered, not the counsel, sorry, but my the hematologist guy who came in to write a paper for me and to speak, he was kind of compromised. The whole process was a bit of a shambles. I thought, why is the burden on me to prove that I didn't do that? You should have to prove that I did do that.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm getting angry again now.
Oh God. I was about to say, are you healed? But maybe not.
I think I am, and I go back over it and I feel like my heart rate, rising. And I think, actually, I'm still pissed off.
Well, it's huge. It was like it will probably be one of the biggest like life experiences and moments that you'll ever have. Yeah,
and I think that there again, that's part of my problem. I tend to just, maybe I'm too laid back with the eating disorder, with everything else. I kind of just think, oh, well, yeah, it's just life. I don't really dwell on stuff. Maybe not dealing with it is, bad in itself, but I tend to just think, oh, well, life goes on.
Just move on. Yeah, then these things come back and haunt you, don't they? Can do. You wait. Still time will come. I'm joking. So what is your main bit of advice here for anyone, female, male, anyone in in sports, in performance, trying to navigate their relationship to food and their body, and also hit their goals, please their coaches and their nutritionists?
You might think you're being smart by doing like what I did, throwing up after dinner and stuff. You think, I'll only do it once or twice as a one-off, just to because I'm overeating, I felt guilty for that. But it is so easy to fall into a really destructive pattern which kind of takes over your life. So I know, so you just sit here and say don't do it, But do, sports that require you to be a certain weight, as a power to weight sport, just achieve that through training, speak to your coach. There's so many people out there now, and people have a better understanding of eating disorders, and it's not so taboo to speak about it. So if you see those patterns, if you can be honest with yourself and you sort of identify something starting, try and nip it in the bud, because you won't become a better athlete through doing that.
Yeah, no way. In fact, you'll just end up in that vicious cycle.
And it affects your mental health as well. Like we talked about earlier, the shame and the guilt, you carry that around. You're almost nervous going to dinner because you think, I know I might do this after dinner and I don't want to do it.
Yeah, it consumes you. And actually,
because you're worried you're not in control.
Yeah, and you're not present. So actually, is there any part of you that thinks, hold on a minute, I was in these incredible countries, having probably amazing foods and with probably very interesting people with all stories. Did that eating disorder take away your ability to be present and enjoy the moments?
A lot of it, yeah. I can think of certain times where I'd order I remember there was one instance, we're in a really nice restaurant, eating, big race the day after, the next day, so you need to fuel up. I ordered a stuffed pepper. People are having massive lasagnas and stuff, and I've got a stuffed pepper.
Yeah.
Just because I thought, well, I can not eat the stuffing, I'll push it around my plate. So I'm already planning it. I see the menu, I'm planning it when it's on the plate, seeing what I can get away with leaving. So it's pretty all consuming, or it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Has anyone ever said to you, just eat it?
I remember that time, and I got the piss taken out of me for ordering a stuffed pepper, but it was quite like a lad team. No one really twigged, because obviously no one else was.
Because you were a lad.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like I was.
Yeah, I've had that several times. Just eat it. I'm like, yeah, I wish I could. I can't. Anyway, thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable, about the eating disorder. I know that this podcast is going to help so many people. So yeah, thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Take care.